Okay, we are currently live. You're all set to go. All right. It is 6:01, our first meeting of 2026. Hello, everybody. Welcome and to our online, looking back, and I know the camera's in front of me. Hello, but it just seems really weird to wave when I'm not looking at anyone. Anyway, welcome, everybody. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. President Sarah Masinski.
Vice President, Trustee West. Trustee Jackson. Trustee Veneta.
Trustee Marlowe.
Trustee Pryor.
Trustee Barnum, Secretary.
Trustee Gauze.
All right. Thank you. Also in attendance virtually, Bob and Andrea, I'll ask you guys to say hello.
Andrea Nicolai, Executive Director. Hi, everyone.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Robert Schofield, Library Counsel.
Hello. Right. And Adam and Sean and Melanie.
Adam Stump, Director of Finance.
Sean Smith, Board Treasurer.
Melanie Bensker, Assistant Director. Perfect. Thank you, everybody. Is there any public comment? No public comment. Moving on to the consent agenda. First item are the minutes from last meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review them? And if so, are there any questions? Well, I guess we check them all at once. And then also the operating check register.
I just had a couple questions for the check register.
Sure, go ahead.
The first question I had was, where is it? For the periodicals, for the Hamilton News is 18360. What was that for?
Hi, Trustee Gauze. That's our annual subscriptions to all of the periodicals for all of our branches. So it's a one-time annual fee that we pay to that company, and they handle all of our subscriptions for us.
Like which subscriptions? Can you give me an example?
Oh, yes. So all of our magazines that we have to offer, and any other, yeah, I think the newspapers are covered under a separate contract, but it's most of the magazines that you can find on the library shelves to borrow.
Okay,
Sorry,
so then the Cox
can I just chime
Information
in?
Services is, yeah.
Hamilton News is actually just newspapers.
Okay, so then the Cox is are those the magazines or what?
That's
Is that
correct.
the
Yeah,
other part of it?
WT Cox is that's magazines.
Okay, thank you. What was the bank fees for 18383?
So that's a U.S. bank. We have to pay them an annual fee. They manage our debt service portion of our tax levy. That's an annual fee. It hasn't changed in years, but yeah, it is $12.50 a year.
Okay. And I was curious. there was some, what was the city, of Albany building supply? Like, what was that for? It's, 18314.
So that's kind of a weird one. That's, we do have to pay property taxes on our vacant lots. We own a couple of vacant lots, near the Howe and Arbor Hill branches.
Okay, because it's under building repair and maintenance. So you're saying that that's property taxes?
Yeah, that's the code it's gone to, historically.
Oh, okay.
There's not really an appropriate place for it to, fit in elsewhere. So, that's sort of where it's gone.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That was all the questions that I have for right now.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions concerning the operating check register? Okay. And there is nothing for the capital fund check register this month, correct?
That's right.
Okay. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda, including the minutes, check register, and capital fund check register?
I make a motion to accept the consent agenda, including the minutes, check registry, and the capital fund check register.
Thank you, trustee Pryor. Is there a second?
Second, Barnum.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Any opposed? No abstentions? Because we all said yes, so passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, moving on to finance.
The three items in the agenda present the library's 2026 fiscal year activity through the 5 months ending November 30th, 2025. The treasurer's report includes two schedules. The first schedule presents the net change in fund balance compared to the budgeted amounts approved by the board. And then the second schedule presents a further breakdown of expenditures by category. Total support and revenue and total expenditures were in line with the approved budget. The capital fund report presents the financial activity for the capital projects that were approved by the board. And then the last schedule is the cash and investment summary report that presents the activity in the library's accounts during the reporting period.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions regarding any of these reports? Hearing none, are we all in a good place to move on? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, committee and liaison reports, reporting out and upcoming events. I'll let someone else start.
I'll report out. So let me look at my notes because I feel like I made a note to myself so that I wouldn't have to try to memorize it. Absolutely. Okay, so I was out. I actually had surgery, and in my mind, I was like, great. So I had not great, 'cause I had surgery, but I was like, yeah, I can do a lot more reading. I have downtime. I'm forced to relax. So I went to read my books. And I get this big note saying your library card is expired. It's like, what in the world? My library card expired? What in the haberdashery is that? So yeah, I'm an individual of particular age, and I guess this is what is that? Actually gave it away. Right. But so this was new to me. Like library cards didn't used to expire. I mean, I don't know when they started doing it, but they didn't used to expire, right? So I'm like, oh, how am I going to get a new library card? Like I was trying to figure this. I didn't think to call. Like, I was like, in my mind, if they expired, then they're really gonna be like, oh, show ID, bring this, bring that. So I had my son drive me to the library, to the Delaware branch, so I could get a new card. So I go back and get back into bed and read my books because I was in the middle of a book and it wouldn't let me open a book because my card was, it was horrible. But I said all that to say, so I went to Delaware branch and I know trustee Pryor knows I never identify myself. I'm just like, so, my card expired, I need a new card. I never identify myself. But I'm just want to say and give a shout out to Jessica and Nina at the Delaware branch. They were awesome. They helped me. They took pity on me. I was like, and I can't even find an old card. Do I need to pay $1 for a new card? They're like, you're fine. They literally did all that. I'm just walking off the street trying to figure it out. They didn't take, they were just so kind and so helpful. And I was literally in and out in maybe 7 minutes. And then right before I left, I was like, you know what? I just want to thank you. I am vice president of the board of trustees. And you all really did a great job in helping alleviate my anxiety. So it was really, really nice that
You
they
were a
really
mystery shopper.
that part. I do it all the time, all the time, all the time. And it was just awesome. It was really, really, they were kind, they were just helpful and attentive and not overly attentive, but they're like, what can we help you with? And they did a great job. So I just want you to, I don't know their last names, but I did get their names. So that was good. Awesome.
So in the future, if that happens and you're laid up, you actually can call your
They
branch.
told me that.
Okay.
But I was already there. They told me that. They're like, it's just
Because you're supposed to be resting.
but I can all the way.
No, I understand because when you're in the middle of a book, like with you, like
It's an
digital,
emergency.
it's like audio. If I can't find it audio, I'm searching on.
I'm gonna tell you.
If I didn't go on,
Yes, I did.
yes.
So finally, I told you, it's like,
He's like, Mom, you're not supposed to. I was like, just come on, let's go. I'm gonna call. You're not calling anybody. Just be. I'm gonna tell. Yeah, he's like, he's gonna tell my husband all of this stuff. No, thank you. I'm like, shoot, look at me. We'll be right back, and I'll buy you something.
Bribery always.
A new library card. So that was me. That was my report out.
So the past month, I not only picked up my library bingo card, which I encourage all listening, all in this room, participate in library bingo. It's a great way to, be provoked to read outside, in other genres you might not, or just, mix up your typical reading habits. But one thing I do want to report out is I gave the new digitized museum pass a go. I did not expect to find myself in Glens Falls one day on the weekend. And I was like, wait, the Hyde Museum is here. And I clicked on the Hyde Museum pass and it happened to be available. And so right then and there, I was able to enjoy free entry to the Hyde collection. So it's such an amazing improvement from, most of our museum passes now do have a digital access availability versus hunting it down at whatever branch happens to have it. So great improvement for services. And I found myself very happy to take advantage of it the other weekend.
Well, I'm looking forward to, I hope I didn't miss it. Trivia should be coming up again soon at, I think, the Madison Avenue Theater. I think we're doing that, so that would be fun. So I'm looking forward to that. It was so much fun the last time that Discover Albany. Things that you think you know, and you're like, no. And things that you're kicking yourself over. Like one of the questions was Discover Albany was the first president that spoke Dutch. Yes. Yes. And yes. And I know that too, because there are many times that I passed it, but I didn't get it. Yeah, it's a fun time.
For those listening, do have Star Trek, Bridgerton, rom-com, and Black History Month trivia is coming up.
And can you repeat the locations? Can you?
Star Trek is at Delta. Richardson is at Pine Hills. Rom-com is an outreach offsite. I'm assuming that's the one at the theater.
Yeah.
And Black History Month is here at Washington Avenue.
Yes, I'm looking forward.
A little late for the summer bingo situation. I finally went to every single branch and checked something out from every single branch. And I've returned them all here, which is so great for everybody. But it was fun to finally get to see some of those places. North Albany was great. From the outside, it looks huge. From the inside, it's tiny. But we had a great time just kind of exploring Albany and getting to see where all these places are.
Mhm.
So it was the day after our last meeting, and so I've been waiting for someone else because I feel like I'm always like, shouting myself over folks. But the mural opening happened, and a bunch of us were there, and it was happy and beautiful, and yay.
It was, just to piggyback on it, yes, it's very, I didn't know if because I missed last meeting, so I didn't know if we discussed it, but it's very inviting, very welcoming. The flowers, the sunflowers, and the artist, she had put little Easter eggs in it. So there's something to discover every time you look at it. Just the sunflowers alone is just makes you just think of warmth and hurry up, little groundhog person, to get here so we can have some warm weather.
All right. There is Trustee Allen, who is Vice President for Finance, couldn't be here tonight, but there is an Audit and Finance Committee report. And I don't remember who was speaking in her stead.
I mean, yeah. I think, most of it is on the agenda for later, which are the budget modifications. So I don't know if that's basically what we spent the meeting on. So I don't know that we need to do anything else now.
Upper Hudson did not meet last month and meets tomorrow. Back to you, Jen.
Again, okay. I'm sorry, I was pulling up my notes, so I couldn't actually see the agenda at the moment. So Trustee Marlowe again for FFAPL, we met on December 17th. We voted a new board member, Sarah Dallas, to the FFAPL board. We spent time continuing to talk about Donor Perfect and working with the consultant and chose which tier we are going to do. So that work will start soon and will hopefully help us with understanding where all of the money lives and accounting for all of the donations, including, well, this is already accounted for, but the $20,000 from the Ware Foundation that the FFAPL received. There was a piano tuning, which apparently I think had kind of been started and talked about before I joined, but is something that needs to be done to the piano here a couple of times a year. So that's now become a regular thing. And what was... And that's basically it. We still have bylaws to discuss whether we want to have an ad hoc or subcommittee for that. And we will meet again January 21st.
Thank you. Upcoming meetings executive committee is in the process of scheduling a meeting, so we don't have it to announce right now, but we should have it to announce soon. And strategic planning is coming up. There's a strategic planning meeting coming up on January 20th, and I believe that's here.
Same with just trustee Pryor, the facilities committee. I have to reach out to our members and see what's conducive for them with their schedule. And so I will get back to you with that information.
Any other committee meetings before we move on? All right, we'll move on to the executive director report.
Hey, hi everyone. I'm going to go through some highlights from the report, and Trustee Masinski, President Masinski already mentioned the opening of the mural, and several others did. It was a really grand occasion, and we had the pleasure of welcoming several community leaders, including the mayor and our executive director of the Upper Hudson Library System and New York State librarian. So it was a really good showing of both library leaders, community leaders, and library patrons, of course, neighborhood patrons. So it was awesome. There was delicious food from Allie B's Kitchen, and I'm really grateful to the branch manager, Nolan, for helping coordinate the whole thing in conjunction with our programs and partnerships department. So if you haven't had a chance to stop by and see it, please do soon. In terms of outreach activities on my part, I did go to a really great talk by Hospitality House Executive Director. I learned a lot about the organization, and we're going to try to see how we can perhaps partner with that organization in the coming months, and maybe I can invite someone from their organization to be part of our strategic planning process as well, because it's just a great organization doing good work in the community and expanding that work. Trustee Marlowe already covered the highlights from the Friends and Foundation of Albany Public Library, so I won't retread those updates, but really good progress being made there. I do want to call out under safety that we had some vandalism at our Howe branch. Unfortunately, we had two young people, I'm not sure exactly what age, but definitely in the tween or young teen category, throw a brick at the window right next to the main entrance on the Broad Street side. And it did shatter the exterior pane, and the interior pane was okay, so the building was secure, but it was really, obviously disturbing for us to see happen, and disturbing for the staff who were there. Everyone handled it really, really well. I'm very proud of the House staff for how they remained calm and did everything correctly throughout that whole event. And we did file a police report about that vandalism. In terms of community engagement, we had 7 volunteers contribute 40 hours of their time to APL during the month of December, and 1 actually served in the Bleecker costume at Deck the Albany, which was that fantastic downtown event that brought together a bunch of vendors, and the hot chocolate stroll happened, and it was a marvelous outreach opportunity for Bleecker in particular through our volunteers. Under programs and partnerships, I want to call out a partnership with Sesame Street that we did to educate community members about early digital literacy. And we did that program at the Pine Hills branch. And we hope to expand those types of programming. I think it's going to become more and more important for our really little people, really little readers or pre-readers, to become familiar with what is healthy and what is not healthy when it comes to digital literacy. And we look forward to expanding that work going forward. Tons of amazing events coming up in January. So I'm not going to mention each one that's listed here, but I do encourage you to check out some of the great trivia events that Melanie mentioned earlier. And we've also got some powerful programming in the way of The name change clinic that happened with Legal Aid Society that already happened last week, well attended and well received by the community. And we also have a Martin Luther King Jr. story time coming up on Martin Luther King Day at Howe. So I just call out those two. Under branch services at Arbor Hill West Hill, we welcomed a new neighborhood specialist, Lanika Moore. She is conducting Thursday community hours at the Arbor Hill West Hill branch. At Bach, story times continue to be a fantastic draw, and we were really happy to see those families come out during the winter break, especially. A lot of community members look to the library during school breaks, and we love to provide excellent programming during those times. We had at Delaware a great turnout for Jack McEnany's talk about Knox's canon and Albany's connection to Revolutionary War history, which is of course going to become more and more a theme in the coming year. At the Howe branch, surprisingly, a crossword puzzle tournament drew a lot of kids and teens, which is just delightful because, you know, there's a lot of talk about kids and teens being very screen obsessed. So the fact that a crossword puzzle tournament really brought folks out is it's just a great thing. At North Albany, staff continue to be really creative with their hands-on craft programming, and they held a crochet 102 program that was popular with older adults, and they're planning more hands-on programming there. At Pine Hills, we held a 3-session lecture series, Understanding the Vietnam War, that was so successful that the branch manager is going to look to do some additional lecture-based programming at that branch. And finally, at Washington Ave, Chris, our fantastic local history intern, created and hosted a program, Do You Know Albany, which was the local history trivia night that I think someone mentioned earlier, or that was a Discover Albany one. But we continue to host and support these trivia events because people love them. And Chris did a great job planning and executing that. That pretty much concludes. I will call out one more highlight from the Collection Management Services Department. I want to thank our SUNY graduate student intern, Sophie Bartlett, who completed her internship in December. She assisted with cataloging the children's world languages collections, which continue to grow, as well as helping with some weeding and other collection maintenance tasks. So I really hope that we can get another SUNY graduate intern soon, and that's just been a fantastic partnership. So yeah, thank you, and I welcome the board's questions on any other element of the report.
Thank you. Are there any questions? All right, we'll move on to monthly statistics.
Okay, turning back to the statistics section of the report, I'll just go through some highlights, and thank you, Melanie, for pulling these together each month. This is the first month that we're showing our statistics on the fiscal year schedule rather than the calendar year. We used to have a calendar year fiscal year, and our statistics reporting was kind of a holdover from that time. So we've now converted all of the stats to fiscal year, which was, you know, a time-consuming task for Melanie and very nice to have done. And now we can move forward with this. We plan on a fiscal year, so it just makes sense that we would be reporting out on a fiscal year. Circulation was up overall, which was nice to see, with year-to-date increases at Washington, Pine Hills, North Albany, and in our e-content category, which is of course our downloadable ebooks and audiobooks. Our computer usage was up at Bach, Delaware, and Howe, and those are the public computers that we have for adults, teens, and youth. And our overall door count is up 8% at Bach, Pine Hills, Delaware, Howe, and North Albany, which is really nice to see, especially in these colder months. So that concludes the statistics report out, and I'm happy to answer any other questions on that.
This is Trustee West. I have a question. What is the trend as far as incidents by branch during the winter months? Do you find that they go up?
We do see a spike, especially before the holidays. and kind of during the cold months because people are seeking warmth and there's a lot of code blue. That happens during the winter months, of course, which are the times when our social services partners help people understand where they can go to get warm. And the library is certainly an important place for people to get warm. So with increased populations in our libraries or in any public space, you're going to have an increase of incidents, conflict. But we continue to support our staff in de-escalation training. We're really looking forward to welcoming our new head of public safety. He's starting on February 2nd. So Melanie, did you have anything you wanted to add about the winter months and incidents? Melanie has been acting as head of public safety in the interim, so.
No, you spoke, the truth. In the winter, we do normally see an increase, just because of the added traffic, with everything happening. Additionally, I do want to point out that while we have seen a slight uptick with the head of public safety position being vacant at the moment, it was still less than last year. So we still are seeing that improvement over the year. So while we did a little bit of a slip back, we're still seeing an improvement from last year.
Thank you.
And I know that we've probably covered this before and I don't remember. With the incidents and looking at the next page in the bar chart where over half of them are nonviolent. Is that more the incidence of something spilling in from the street or needing to call 911 for an emergency? And so it's less threatening for staff and patrons. Is that a correct?
That is correct. That is, a lot of it is our calls to 911 for health emergencies. Little Johnny tripped and banged his knee and we had to give him a Band-Aid. Or somebody just being ornery and we had to ask them to leave for the day. Not really overtly violent in any way, verbally or physically, just
Okay.
you're not listening to staff. We're asking you to leave for the day.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Any other questions on monthly statistics? We have no unfinished business, so we will go ahead and move to new business, starting with the budget modification.
Okay, I am going to start this off and then Adam is going to take it over and then I'm going to wrap it up. So I'm going to start, if I can direct your attention to two documents that we shared in your meeting materials. One is a memo and it's titled FY 25-26 budget modification. And the other is, of course, the spreadsheet itself showing the line by line budget. So with that said, our Director of Finance, Adam, will take you through the details. But before he does, I want to emphasize that this year's modification was really not an ordinary year for a mid-year modification for the library. The goal of our budget modification this year was really twofold. In addition to the normal modification exercise of showing where the budget actually is at mid-year versus what we projected initially, we also worked with our managers to look for extra savings in as much as we could this year to minimize the deficit projection as much as possible. We have another 6-figure deficit projection for this fiscal year, which is something that I've shared with the board and that I know you're aware of. But that said, we had to keep our expectations in check in terms of how much we could find to save, given that 75% of our operating costs are for staff salaries and benefits. So just to reiterate the background as we kind of get closer to budget season, I want to take a moment to briefly review why, starting last year, we've begun to realize these deficit projections in our operating budget, because it does help explain the treatment of this year's mid-year modification. So as we shared in the 5-year financial plan that we presented to the board for informational purposes this past October, the branch improvement plan, which took place more or less 15 years ago, renovated existing branches, added the 2 new branches to our APL system, creating our 7 branches total. And since 2011, the conclusion of the branch improvement plan, we have kept library tax levy increases under the tax cap. There were 5 years when we asked for no increase at all, and that was 2013, 14, 19, 20, and 21. What this means is that the cumulative increase in our operating budget tax levies over 14 years was only 22%, or an average of 1.5% annually. So the library hasn't had a truly balanced budget that doesn't project the use of fund balance since before 2011. And over the past 15 years, there are 2 key variables that kept us from realizing those reductions to our fund balance. And those, which I've been over before, but I'll repeat, were numerous vacancies within our staffing model each year, as well as favorable outcomes in unpredictable areas such as non-tax revenue, interest income, tax cert payments, and utilities costs. So in terms of where we are now, those no library tax increase years, together with the impact of the New York State minimum wage increases that took place from 2021 to 25, as well as recent losses in that non-tax revenue I spoke about, and our rising employee benefits costs, which many organizations are seeing, all of that has taken a real toll on our financial position. And at the end of last fiscal year, fiscal 25, we did see that 6-figure reduction in fund balance. So we're also looking at realizing another 6-figure reduction in fund balance this year. And that's why we're putting so much emphasis on not only the history, but also what we need to do next. So obviously there was no way to magically find $800,000 in savings through a mid-year budget modification. But ultimately what this all comes down to is that even a more intentional mid-year budget modification amounts to only a relative drop in the bucket when it comes to trying to address our deficit. So it reinforces the truth that APL can't rely on numerous vacancies or these favorable variances in a given fiscal year to control our operating costs. And we need a sustainable plan. And we're working on that. And I thank the Audit and Finance Committee and I thank the board for their attention to this important matter. So with all that said, Adam is now going to review the details of this year's mid-year modification, and we'll of course be ready to field any questions that you have at the end. I can't see all of you very closely, so I don't know if there are people who have questions now, but Adam, if you could take it away, unless anyone has a question already.
All right, yeah, I'll just start to take you through the memo here. So you can see we dropped support and revenue by about 128,000. Don't read too much into that number because the majority of that pertains to the New York State grants line, which includes our central library funding we receive through UHLS. UHLS is now paying a portion of those costs directly, so they're not forwarding the money to us. It corresponds with a decrease to our central library expense line. So there's a net 0 impact on the budget. The other revenue reductions we are seeing that are somewhat impactful are the loss of federal E-rate funding of about $35,000 and the rental income we were receiving from ACAP, who's no longer renting space here as of last October. So moving on to expenditures, the overall decrease to expenditures was about 82,000. So how that's broken down between the different categories. Starting with payroll and related costs. So we actually had to increase that by a total of 76,000. Majority of that is due to health insurance costs. The new plans that we negotiated with CSEA, while they were less expensive than if we had renewed our pre-existing plans, they were still expensive enough that the existing budget, employee benefits budget, was not going to be enough to cover what we needed. So we did have to increase that by 150,000. And you can see on the actual spreadsheet, there were some adjustments to the salaries lines. That actually is primarily related to the changes at North Albany. When we initially approved the fiscal 26 budget, we still had a full-time librarian two at North Albany. We no longer have that position there, and it was replaced with a couple of part-time positions. Hence the larger reduction to full-time salaries and the increase to part-time salaries. And just touching on the New York State Retirement System line as well, they give us an estimate twice a year. They give us one about a year out, and then another one mid-year, an updated one of what we stand to owe for the year. So the first estimate was 655. The last estimate and what we ended up paying was about 634. So there was a little bit of a reduction there. That number is still quite a bit higher than it was several years ago. There's several reasons for that I won't get into here, though. So moving on to occupancy costs. Well, actually, I will touch on again just the one other item in the payroll and related cost section. So management confidential salaries, which includes most of our administration staff, are not getting raises this year. We're not under a union contract like our CSEA staff, so we do have the ability to hold back raises, which we are doing, which save $13,000 for the year. So moving on to occupancy costs, 0% net change, but a couple of numbers switched around within that section. Utilities, we did bump that up by 50,000. National Grid rate increases, you may have seen it on your bills at home, but they've been instituting some increases recently that are affecting us as well. Even with those LED light upgrades we made a couple years back, still not enough to keep those costs where we'd like to see them. So
I enjoyed all those meetings where we had the comments about, and we're this far below budget thanks to the LED lights.
yeah, that was nice. But yeah, may have a couple of meetings where we're talking about some painful utility bills. Custodial supplies, we reduced that by 10,000. We're trying to cut back spending on certain items. Somewhat minimal saving relative to the entirety of the budget, but we're looking for savings wherever we can. The furniture building improvement line, we actually just cut that down to 0. That's sort of acted as a catch-all line in years past, ever since we started paying for capital improvements out of our capital reserve and not as part of the operating budget. That line has just been used for, sure, maybe a desk chair here and there, but sort of non-capital project improvements. But we're trying to eliminate that spending for the rest of the year, especially considering we do have some capital expenses that we're paying this year that are coming out of pocket, so to speak. So that was sort of a way to offset a little bit of those costs. Moving on to materials and services, 10% total decrease, 86,000. A lot of that has to do with, like I said earlier, the central library development line being reduced. Again, corresponds with that New York State grants line, net zero impact on the bottom line. The remainder of the adjustment is because we're discontinuing Hoopla as of January 1st, which we talked about in a prior meeting, and that saved us about 14,000. Admin and miscellaneous. So this is a little, this is really no longer relevant, this first point here, because at the time we had the committee meeting, we were engaged in a contract with National, who handles our copiers, they were providing toner to us as part of this contract. We have since canceled that contract. We determined it was not the right agreement for us. So this office and library supply reduction, I don't know that we're going to end up spending that entire $35,000 on toner between now and the end of the fiscal year, but at the end of the year, we can certainly expect to see an office and library supply budget that exceeds the $35,000 that you see in the modified budget. So that talking point you can kind of disregard. We just wanted to present the memo as it stood, as it was presented to the committee. Bank fees, we reduced that. Bank fees is also used for credit card fees, which our previous credit card processor was far too expensive. So we did transition to a much more cost-effective one, which is allowing for a bit of savings in that line. 10,000 is what we're projecting. And the training and travel line, we reduced that by 7,000. We have not spent a ton in that line so far. As it says in the memo, larger expense, professional development opportunities are being limited this year. National conference attendance, for example. But that's not necessarily a permanent reduction, just something, again, and we're looking for any area in which we can make improvements for the purposes of this year's budget. And then the IT section, $20,000 decrease to IT hardware. This is really just based off of a discussion with our IT manager, sort of outlining the needs for his department, what maybe needs to be upgraded this year. And he determined that he could get by on 55,000 rather than 75,000. So the end result of that, and I will turn it back over to Andrea, but the end result of all those adjustments is still a almost $46,000 increase to the operating deficit projection. And I did just want to point out just a couple more things that aren't in the memo. Sorry to go off book here, but I did just want to point out that there is sort of a built-in contingency to this budget in the form of the tax cert payment line and also the North Albany services line. Those are two lines that we haven't actually paid a cent towards in several years now. So those amounts are really in there as placeholders. So that said, I don't expect that we're actually going to realize a deficit of 868,000. But I do expect that we will realize a significant deficit, much like we did last year. And with that, I'll give it back to Andrea.
Okay, thanks, Adam. I'm not gonna repeat everything I said earlier. The summary is really sort of a condensed reiteration of what I spoke to, which is just the fact that we need this multi-year financial plan that includes significant increase in tax levy revenue. And we're working on that with the Audit and Finance Committee. And I thank Adam Stump for helping prepare this modification. I thank him for organizing all of the meetings that we needed with the managers to discuss different ways that we could curb costs this year. He did a really phenomenal job of recognizing where we could see some movement in this year's budget modification. And yeah, I just give him a lot of credit for his work. And I also look forward to establishing a really good 5-year plan that sets us up for success as a 7-branch system. So thank you, and happy to answer any questions.
Trustee West, I have a question. You mentioned that you termed the contract for NBT. Was the contract only for toner and maintenance, or was the equipment still under contract?
So we have a couple of contracts with NBT. That one was specifically for toner. We do have a separate contract that we lease our copiers from them. That contract is still in play. And the pricing on that hasn't changed significantly. So that, I mean, that still makes sense for us. But the toner specific contract that, as it turns out, did not make financial sense for us.
I would add that that contract was for public toner, public printer toner. So each branch, when they needed replacements, would have to go through a process to receive new toner, and it just proved, yeah, it wasn't working the way that we thought it would. So I think we're going to actually save money getting out of it, which was, I'm grateful to National for basically letting us out of a contract without penalty or a little early. So that's where it stands. Did that answer your question, Trustee West?
It did. I have a follow-up question. It's kind of in left field, but along the lines of MBT. So the equipment contract is the lease for 3 or 5 years?
You mean like the public printers? Is that what you?
So you just referenced that you do have a separate contract with MBT for the equipment. And I was trying to figure out if it's a 3-year contract or 5 contract.
Yeah, that I'm not totally sure. I could get back to you on it. I want to say 3. Adam, do you have any recollection of this?
I'm not exactly sure either off the top of my head. That's probably something we'd want to check with our IT manager about.
Thank you.
Any additional comments? Right. While it is not here in the agenda, I believe that we have a motion from.
I'm sorry, I do have a question
Oh,
for
yeah, go ahead.
Adam. I know that you can't put an exact number on it, but you said as far as the deficit goes, do you have maybe a closer number you maybe can give us an ideal of? I know it'd be just a guesstimate, but I was just curious.
I'm personally expecting a deficit of at least 600,000. It's really going to depend on if we have any vacancies throughout the remainder of the year, health insurance deductible usage, because we reimburse 100% of deductibles. That's also going to play into it in a significant way. I suspect the utility bills for these cold months going to have a significant impact. And then on the revenue side, there's a couple of big X factors that we didn't touch on in the modification: the interest income line and the pilot payment line. Our investment bankers told us to expect rate cuts over the coming months, which could limit our interest earning potential. And the pilot payment was significantly reduced last year due to the property reassessments. The properties paying pilots, because of those reassessments, now paying much lower amounts. Having said that, I hope that it will go up at least a little bit because the pilots are based on our tax rate, which did increase with this budget. So we don't have information on what that pilot amount is going to be yet, but I'm optimistic that it will be higher than what's here. Having said all that, I still think a deficit of over 600,000 is realistic.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Are there any additional questions? So I just pulled it up. So there was a motion in committee, or this came from committee with a motion to recommend the fiscal year 25-26 budget modification for board approval. So that stands before us now for us as a board to second and vote yay, nay on.
I did have a question. With that said, looking at 600,000, what are we asking, when the time comes for, tax time, how much are we going to be asking the taxpayer to, to contribute?
So trustee Pryor, this is what we are trying to determine right now. There are several scenarios that the Audit and Finance Committee are looking at right now, and they next meet on, is it the 20th?
21st?
21st. So over the next month, of course, in February, you'll have your special budget meeting in addition to the regular meeting, and you'll learn a lot more about what the recommendation is at that time. But definitely we can expect a tax increase above the tax cap for this year, this coming fiscal year.
The 22nd, we meet.
No, thank you. I guess my question is, are we jumping the gun with the modifications or putting the chicken before the cart, or?
No, not really, because the
if we do
modification.
Modification?
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, we're not jumping the gun. The modification really just addresses this fiscal year that we're in. And, you know, as far as the deficit, the budget was approved, of course, by this board back in March of 20. Yeah. So the modification doesn't really have any import for the tax levy increase for the fiscal year to come. But beyond just information, of course, the community needs to know where the library is, and certainly you all need to understand where the library is in terms of its finances heading into the budget season in those discussions. So that's kind of what we were looking to use the modification to allow us to discuss a little bit tonight.
In anticipation for what you're saying is a tax levy increase over the cap, I do just want to just bring to the forefront, every year we've been going, when we're going for this increase, and I know I personally have had questions. What is a realistic number either we're trying to get to, or what we're going to ask taxpayers to contribute to this? And there can never be a solid answer for me anyways. And I just think it's really disingenuous to continue to present an increase that's something that's not really close to really what you need to get to. And we're coming back to the taxpayers again and again and again and saying, hey, we need this increase. Hey, we need this increase. And if you really need to get to a 7%, let's be honest about that, instead of kind of nickel and diamond saying we're just going up 2.5%, 2%, whatever it is. And then now this year, in anticipation for next year's budget, you're saying that we're most likely going to be going for an increase over the tax levy. So I just want to put that out there. I think this is going to end up being the same conversation and things that I bring up every year when we talk about the library's budget. I'd rather be forthcoming to the residents and really be honest about what our projections are, what the library's projections are, and realistic numbers of what we really need to get to. Because to continue to come back with increases that are not really where we need to be, it just seems just very disingenuous. So that's just a comment, not a question.
Thank you. I appreciate the comment, and I'm really glad that you articulated it, because that is exactly what we need to do. We need a long-range plan, financial plan that's going to be honest and upfront with the community about what the library needs in order to cancel out these deficit projections that we've been doing and really come to a balanced budget.
Right, but this is the exact same sentiments I've brought up every year when voting on this, and I can never get an answer. I can never get an answer. So this, like I said, this is not something, it was just a comment that we have some new board members here. And I just want to continue to reiterate what my position is and what it will be in the future as far as this goes with the budget. And definitely when I have to go out and talk to residents and talk about this budget for something, it has to be something where we as trustees as well can get behind, and something that we feel that we're doing honest when it comes to asking taxpayers for more money. So like I just said, it just seems just a bit every year just disingenuous not to have really an answer when I'm going out talking to, you know, residents, and these questions really what we're trying to get to. That's all.
Thank
This
you,
is-
Trustee Goss.
This is Trustee Barnum. Do you anticipate, and I know that Trustee Allen's not here tonight, but I believe last year, when we were, you know, at the same point of the year, we were looking at several different like iterations of the budget where we looked at what is status quo budget, and we looked at varying steps, and I think we asked for what we were, you know, colloquially calling the blue sky projection, which was what would a balanced budget look like? And I think this speaks to some of what Trustee Goss is, you know, addressing again tonight. Do you anticipate that the blue sky version of the budget number will appear again in the different scenarios we're looking at for this year?
So yes, the budget scenario that we'll be working on with the Audit and Finance Committee will hopefully address the deficit projections that we've been seeing and realizing thanks to the change in circumstances for our non-tax revenue and the increasing costs of of wages and salaries in general and benefits. So that is the goal, and the Audit and Finance Committee is looking closely at the different scenarios that could get us to a place where we have a balanced budget for the first time since before 2011.
Thank you.
Thank you. So going back to the current budget and the fiscal year 25-26 budget modification out of committee, is there a second?
Second, Trustee Veneta.
Thank you. All in favor of the budget modification? Aye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All opposed? Any abstentions?
Yes.
Yes.
3 abstentions. All right, thank you. All right, moving on to capital reserve reassignment.
Okay, so the purpose of this this memo about the capital reserve reassignment that we are asking the board to approve, it basically gets into the subject of our unassigned fund balance. And I'm going to let Adam Stump take us through this, and we're both happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, so the purpose of this is essentially to ensure that we have enough funds in the unassigned fund balance to cover what we'll need, if not a bit more than what we'll need to cover the first 3 months of the next fiscal year. Right now we have, let's see, almost 6 million tied up in the capital reserve portion of the fund balance. Funds cannot be added or removed from that without board approval. Years back, $3 million was added somewhat arbitrarily, I think, to be honest, to that line, and we've been drawing down on it since. But now that we're actually realizing these operating deficits, we do need additional funds in the unassigned fund balance to not only ensure that we maintain enough funds to cover that first 3 months of the year, but also to accurately reflect what we actually have available to pay for capital projects out of our capital reserve fund balance. So what was proposed was that we move just over $1 million, $1,097,394 from the capital reserve to the unassigned fund balance, which leaves $500,000 in the capital reserve. And this maneuver does not impact any of the capital projects that are currently underway. All those funds have already been moved out of the capital reserve, already accounted for separately, so no impact on current capital projects. Really, I mean, what the capital reserve should be, when we hopefully get to the point where we can realize surpluses again at the end of fiscal year, then we can add those surpluses to the capital reserve and use them to pay for future capital projects. But at this point where we are realizing deficits, we do need to make sure that there is enough funding in that unassigned fund balance. So again, that's the proposal, just moving $1,097,394 from the capital reserve to the unassigned fund balance.
Thank you. Are there any questions? All right. So similar to before, there's a motion coming out of committee to reassign $1,097,394 from the capital reserve to unassigned fund balance so that 50,000 remains in the capital reserve. 500,000. Oh my goodness, I can't read. I'm sorry, everyone. 500,000. Is there a second to this motion?
Second, trustee Veneta.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take a vote, hearing no questions or further comments. All in favor? Aye. Trustee Glass? Oh, no, sorry. So any opposed? Any abstentions?
Yes.
One abstention. All right. Thank you. And the last item is going to be, well, the almost last item is going to be super quick. We did receive quarterly board evaluations. As I mentioned, or I did mention earlier that we're in the process of scheduling executive committee. We're going to review them together with executive committee, and try to, make us all as good and functional as possible. So that will move to old business for next meeting. Is there any additional public comment? All right. Is there a motion? There's no need for executive session. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Trustee West. We adjourn, Trustee Pryor.
Oh,
Trustee Pryor moves for adjournment.
Trustee West, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
All right.
All opposed? Abstained? All right, we're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Yeah, that was, it feels like a record.
Thank you. Good night.
Night.
Hey.
Good night.